All right, guys, I had an idea. This guy right here is a powered relay, something you would use in a golf cart or trolling motor, whatever. You send power, send a signal to these two posts here, and that engages the solenoid and connects these two big posts. And this guy will handle 300 amps, right? So I was thinking about charging system and a couple of ways these could be used in the charging system whenever in car audio. Oh, yeah. So hang on, there's more to this. Now, here's the second component, right? You got your, this is a thermostat. And there's many of these, but this is just the one that I have pulled up here because it has a nice wiring diagram to illustrate what it does. So you've got your power supply to the thermostat. Let me see here if I can get this to stay up. You got your power supply to the thermostat here, right? That powers the whole organism. And you got a wire with a sensor on it that picks up the temperature. Then you've got an output right here, 12-volt output. Now you take this 12-volt output and connect it to the switch I showed you earlier, right? Now you might need to go through a relay to reverse the polarity, or to reverse the signal. So this is going to come on at a certain temperature. Think of it as a heater. So if it's outside, if it's really cold, right, you set the temperature you want this to kick the heater on, okay? Now, instead of kicking it on, you have it set to trigger this signal to be hot. And then you take this hot signal and run it through a standard 12-volt relay so that it opens, it opens the relay, right? Whenever the temperature gets to a certain point. So this part right here would get hot and close this circuit and make this hot, right? That would trigger the relay to open or turn off, and that relay would control the other device I showed you and open it. So essentially what would happen is once the temperature dropped to the set point, it would open the breaker on the relay I showed you earlier, the big relay. And what I'm thinking is, hang on, more to this. This is a complicated process. All right, so where I have my two alternators in here, these two electrical systems are separate, right? So the gray colored alternator, this one, is just charging this AGM battery and those two AGM batteries over there and running the Tahoe. This green alternator is charging through these two light green wires, through these fuses, to these wires. It runs back. They run back here. They run to these two fuses right here that you can't see. And that runs, well, you can't see, but it's hidden, but that runs back here to the very back underneath this cover to a lithium, trunked under lithium battery and to a supercap, Ioxys U-Start supercap behind this panel here. Okay, so which is what sends power to that amplifier. So we got that mapped out, right? Now, here's the thing. I can connect these two alternators with a cable going from there to there, and that ties the two electrical systems together. So these batteries are getting charged from both alternators, and both alternators are charging everything. But the voltage up here for these AGMs is around 12.8 volts, and the voltage, that's at the high end resting voltage, and the resting voltage on the lithium, the trunk thunder lithium back there, is 13.23. Those are two different voltages. So sitting here not doing anything, the lithium will continually try to charge these guys up to its resting voltage until it's depleted its resting voltage down to where it's the same with these, which is not good for the lithium. Okay, got that in your head, right? This is why these two are not connected right now. But when I'm rocking the system real hard, having the ability to incorporate that extra alternator into the system is a game changer. Not only that, but having the reserve of these batteries, the voltage drops down enough to where it's actually hitting these batteries, which it really doesn't do. Having that there is a nice stable shelf to stop that voltage from falling any further. But I don't really have that problem. What I am missing though is the second alternator, because that alternator is a 300 amp alternator. This is a 370 amp alternator. So I would like to be able to use both charging systems together while I'm playing, but be able to separate them when I'm not playing. So here's my ideas. I got two. There's two different things going on here. The first one is covering this problem I'm talking about right now, right? How to add that alternator to the system and then take it away whenever we're not running, so we're not trying to balance two different voltage batteries. That first thing I showed you, that round guy, well, you may not have seen it yet. I'm not sure how the order of these clips is going to be, but it's a relay. It's like a go-kart relay or a golf cart relay for an electric golf cart. Essentially, what happens is when you send it power, it closes the switch. So having one of those, a 300 amp relay switch in here, and then whenever I can use the trigger that I use to tell this alternator to charge, which is the ignition on wire, right? So I can use an ignition on wire to close a switch between these two alternators. So whenever the ignition is off, these two alternators will not be connected and these two circuits will be separate. So while the vehicle's sitting not running, these batteries and all that will just do their own thing, and those batteries will do their own thing, and everybody will be happy. When I start the vehicle up and I'm now putting 14.5 volts to the system, everything's getting charged, and so everything's happy. That one switch will solve that whole problem I just described. And it'll do it automatically, because when I turn the key on, the switch will close, and this alternator will join. These systems will all join. As soon as I turn the key off, it'll open. Everything will be separate. It's brilliant, right? You can use a battery oscillator, but you don't need one. This will give you full current through the system. So that's one problem I'm trying to solve. And I found a solution. Pretty sure that's going to work. The second thing I want to solve, this is where it's a little bit more complicated. So lithium, the less expensive forms of lithium, doesn't like to be charged whenever it's very, very cold. And sometimes one drives a vehicle when it's very, very cold. So I was like, well, how can I fix that? Now I can always just disconnect. I can come up here and in the wintertime, right? And I can pull these fuses right here and disconnect the lithium from the charging so it won't be getting charged. But that's kind of a pain in the butt. And also I have to constantly worry about disconnecting and reconnecting and all that. So I showed you the temperature thing, the thermostat. Now let's say we have a thermostat set up to where it's located back in the back by the lithium, right? So the temperature probe is back there away from the engine compartment by the lithium where it's at. And that's going to be the temperature of the lithium. Now, you got that sucker located back there, and then it's wired up to come up here and flip a switch. So in this circuit somewhere in here, you add 2 of those 300 amp relays, because I got a lot of power coming out of here. 2 of those 300 amp relays intersecting these wires running to the back there. And then you put another small relay in there that's in a constant state of on, right? Is that correct? Constant state of, anyway, I'm trying to confuse myself. So essentially, when the thermostat drops down to the point to where it's wanting to kick on its device, right? Normally it would be a heater. When it drops down to whatever that set point is, I could have it set at, say, a nice high temperature like 35 degrees, 36 degrees, a little higher than freezing. When it drops to that point, it's going to go, hey, it's time to kick on. So it kicks on and sends power to 2 lines. So sending power and the ground out, we're getting current on those 2, right? Those 2 run to a second relay. That relay will be in a state of, let me think about this. Okay, we got the current coming out. So now we got these 2 switches here, big ones, and they're going to be always on, right? They're going to be connected so that the current's running, which means there's current running to those switches. Yeah. So that relay is set up in a state where it's always sending current, and it's going to be powering the 2 big brown breakers right here, right? So they're going to be getting a signal from that small 12-volt relay to stay on all the time. When a thermostat reaches a point to where it's dropped far enough, it's going to send a positive, a live signal to that little thermostat, and that little thermostat's going to go click, and when it does, it'll turn off these switches here, so that essentially when the temperature drops below a certain point, the set point, it'll open up the circuit and stop charging the lithium. And when that temperature by the lithium, which is again under that cover, when the temperature by the lithium comes up enough to where it's safe to charge, meaning you've heated up the inside of the vehicle and everything is warmed up, the lithium is warmed up, all that's good to go, then it'll trip the switch back on and send power back to the lithium. Freaking brilliant. All right, super simple, very, very simple, but a solution. There's even more intricate ways that you could incorporate a heater into this to actually heat the lithium up, but the vehicle has that property already, so it's not really necessary. If the lithium is located in the passenger compartment, as the passenger compartment heats up, that's going to heat up the lithium, and Bob's your uncle. So we don't really need to incorporate the heater, but I think this idea will work. So I know this is a long-winded video, and I've just been really puzzling over this for quite a while, and I finally decided I was going to start doing some research. So the equipment to make this happen is relatively inexpensive. I think it is good. And there's many variants of these things I showed you, but yeah, the basic concept stays the same. Simply using a couple of relays and a thermal controller, and also that thermal controller has it needs to have a status display. So what I would have is the temperature showing up on the thermal controller, plus I know what kind of temperature it is outside. And I would also have a light rigged up off of the signal wire, so that whenever the power was going to the 2 switches in the front, the big ones, when power was going to that, and I know that it's closed, right? I know that that is closed and that thing is charging. I would have a status light in here that would be on, showing me it's charging. So whenever I could be aware of what the state of the system is in at any given point in time. And even when the vehicle is not running, that can be set up to where it's connected all the time. Of course, that would use power, but I don't know. But anyway, you get the idea. I could have all of this triggered off of hard triggered. And then, of course, I would also have a hard off switch so that no matter what the electrical system, that I'm designing was doing, I could flip a switch up here and cut power to that charging system manually in case something isn't working as it was intended. So I know this is confusing. I hope you guys are able to follow what I'm talking about. I'm having trouble getting it all into words, but I think I've conveyed enough information to where the intelligent among us will be able to pick up on what I'm putting down. So, down there in the comments, if you got any suggestions on specific products, amendments to this idea, other things, put it down there because I want to carry this further in this investigation. Guys, if you are looking for good, strong lithium battery banks, pre-made banks, Trunk Thunder Lithium is where you need to go. I got a link to them down below. And use my coupon code, capital CAE 10 to get a 10% discount over there. And tell Brandon I sent you. He'll love it. Anyway, guys, comments down below.